This is part 3 of the different types of markets, focusing on monopolistic competition. And in this case, the case study will be a monopolistic competition and your haircut. If the place where you live is like many other places in the United States or Canada, you and your friends have many choices about where to go to get a haircut. The price you pay for a basic haircut probably ranges from a few dollars at a discount establishment to many dollars at an upscale salon. Since there are so many hairstylists, why doesn't competition drive the prices down so all haircuts cost the same price? The answer has to do with the type of market structure referred to as monopolistic competition. Hairstylists and many other local businesses such as gas stations, fast food restaurants, and dry cleaners are similar in many ways to purely competitive markets. There are many competing sellers or firms in the industry, and it is relatively easy to open a business of this type. But in monopolistic competition, sellers try to convince customers that their products are different from those of other sellers, and they compete with each other in ways other than by lowering prices. Some people, your parents, if they're paying your bills, might argue that one haircut is much like another. So why pay one person $60 if you can pay someone else $7? The more expensive hairstylists might respond by claiming that they do better work and know the latest styles, and their haircuts are therefore different from the cheaper ones. Because these hairstylists convince their customers that their haircuts are different, they are able to influence the prices they charge. They do not have to charge the same price every other hairstylist in town charges. Firms such as hair salons often compete with one another by engaging in non-price competition. They may attract more customers because they have a better location, or because they have more appealing surroundings, or more convenient hours. The existence of non-price competition is widespread under monopolistic competition. You can probably think of many examples of how local fast food restaurants and gas stations compete in ways other than by charging lower prices. In summary, firms in monopolistic competition have some characteristics that are similar to pure competition and some characteristics that are similar to pure monopolies, and hence the term. So monopolistic competition, similarities of monopolies, and similarities to perfect competition. But all in all, they are much more competitive than they are monopolistic. So try to think of some characteristics of monopolistic competition. Maybe pause, see what you can write down, and then check with the presentation. So monopolistic competition shares some perfect competition characteristics, but through advertising and product differentiation, it is really trying to achieve some of the market powers monopolies enjoy. Structures, number of firms. So we have a relatively large number of small producers, and so price fixing is impossible. Each firm has a small share of the market, and each firm acts independently of others. The number of firms may not be as large as in perfect competition. The relative size of firms, because of the relative size, pricing and output behavior of one firm has minimal impact on others. And barriers to entry. This tends to be heavily with product differentiation, could be financial, patents, copyright, a license. There is some impact of output on price. The firm does have a downward sloping demand curve. And product differentiation, products are similar but not identical, so we'll call them close substitutes. There may be physical differences. Think of clothes and shoes and books, processed foods. There might be quality differences, location, services offered, product image, especially if they use celebrity advertising. And advertising may be informative or persuasive. Now, thinking about that in terms of the difference between informative or persuasive, informative will be, of course, telling you of the different features that you might not be aware of for a product, or perhaps even introducing a new product. And so you are being educated as to the existence of this product and its features. Or it could be persuasive in terms of particularly like a lifestyle type advertising. You are persuaded that you would like to buy this product. And market power. There's limited control over price by extent of profit differentiation, and little ability for collusion. And sorry, that should be product differentiation. There is, as we said, a downward sloping demand curve because output has an impact on the price. And because the products are at the same time a substitute for the other, this demand curve is relatively elastic. It is more elastic than a monopoly because a monopoly is the only game in town and there are no substitutes, but it's less elastic than in perfect competition. We have, this is really important to realize, profit maximization in the short run. And I'd like to emphasize short run only. So we can have supernormal profit in the short run, but this will only exist in the short run. What happens is if there is supernormal profit, other firms will be enticed to enter the industry. The individual demand curve for the firm will shift left. It becomes more elastic in the long run. The market share is reduced and it becomes more competitive. And of course, we know if the demand curve shifts left, the price is going to drop and the supernormal profits disappear. If we look at in the long run, so profit maximization in the long run, we are once again looking at normal profit only. And this is because there's insufficient barriers to entry to prevent other people from entering the market. So to the extent that consumers can be convinced that the product they are purchasing, for example, Puma shoes, is superior to the available substitutes, such as Adidas and Nikes, then Puma has succeeded in establishing a mini monopoly for its product. And I will confess, for me, it happens to be Nike clothes, and I play tennis. And that's probably because of all of the endorsements and product placement by top tennis players wearing Nike clothes. So I have been convinced that this is a product that I want to buy. But let's focus on Puma. So if the customer is convinced that Puma is better than Adidas and Nike, and if the price of Puma shoes increases, only some and not all buyers of Puma shoes will switch to other brands. Those who believe that Puma shoes are superior will continue to buy them in spite of the higher price. Monopolistically competitive firms engage heavily in product development, research that leads to new and/or better products, leading to product differentiation. The greater the degree of product differentiation, the less elastic will be the demand curve facing the firm, because the less close will be the substitutes. The greater the degree of monopoly power of the firm, and hence the greater for potential for making economic profit. Yet product differentiation by itself is not enough for the creation of monopoly power. It is also important for customers to be convinced that the product is worth purchasing. Monopolistically competitive firms pursue this objective through advertising and branding. The objective of advertising and branding is to influence consumer tastes in favor of the product. Try to think of some products where you've been influenced that way and where you have particular brand loyalty. Monopolistically competitive firms compete with each other on the basis of both price and non-price competition, such as product differentiation, advertising, and branding. The more successful they are in increasing their sales and market share through non-price competition methods, the less they need to rely on price competition. By contrast, firms that are less able to achieve consumer loyalty for their product and whose product is less differentiated from substitutes may have to rely more on price competition in order to increase their sales and market share. So drawing monopolistic competition where we have profit maximization in the short run, and I do want to emphasize in the short run, and we're going to be able to have supernormal profits in the short run only. Now this graph will look exactly the same as a monopoly graph where you have supernormal profits, but remember that in this case for monopolistic competition the demand curve is more elastic because you have close substitutes, whereas in a monopoly it's more inelastic. I've never seen where you have to compare and contrast monopolistic competition with a monopoly. If you did, if you had to have each graph side by side, I would make sure that the monopolistic competition graph is flatter or hence more elastic, and the monopoly demand curve is steeper or more inelastic. But for the sake of just drawing this on its own, I'm not going to be too worried about the steepness of the demand curve. So I will start off with average cost. I will bring marginal cost through the minimum. I will draw marginal revenue, average revenue. We know we're going to produce where MC equals MR, so I'm going to find that place, put down a big blob, bring it down, call this Q. Now, as you know, we can forget about MC and MR. We found our quantity where we're going to maximize profit. We're going to go up to average revenue and average cost, bring them over and see if we have a profit, a loss, or what's happening. So here we go up to average revenue, bring that over. So all of this revenue. Here it is intersecting with average cost, so we'll bring that across. All of this is cost. And so the difference must be the supernormal profit and once again this is short run only. There we go. So here it is drawn for you in color. So short run, again, short run of normal profits in a monopolistic competition. With supernormal profits, we know that firms will enter the market, especially since the barriers to entry are fairly low in this type of competition. The demand for the product of each firm will fall, and AR, the demand curve, will shift to the left. The reason, of course, why the demand will fall is that you will have customers switching over perhaps to the new firms that have entered the market. The long-run equilibrium is going to show normal profits only. Now, as far as I know, you never have to actually show the demand curve for the individual firm shifting left. We're just going to show the situation now of normal profit only. So we will start off with average cost. Bring marginal cost through the minimum. We will draw marginal revenue. And then we will pause. We know that at this quantity, so let's MC equals MR, this becomes our Q. We know at this quantity we want revenue and cost to be the same, or average revenue and average cost to be the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up to the average cost curve. We're going to draw the average revenue as a tangent at this point. So when we bring this across, we are intersecting both with average cost, which is here, and average revenue. And so here we have revenue equals cost, and we have normal profit only. In the long run. And here are instructions to follow that if you needed to refer back to this in writing down the road as you prepare for your test or exams. And there it is in color for you. Note again that at the quantity Q, we have AC and AR intersecting, and the only way that we can have them intersecting is by drawing AR as a tangent at that point. In monopolistic competition, over the long run, industries in which firms earn economic profits are going to attract the new entrants, while loss-making firms in unprofitable industries will shut down their plants and leave the industry. The process of entry and exit of firms in the long run ensures that economic profit or loss is zero, and all firms earn normal profit. So there's similar to, remember, perfect competition, where that also would happen. Allocative and productive efficiency. We know that allocative efficiency is where P equals MC. and productive efficiency is if P is at the minimum of average cost. Examining the long-run equilibrium position of the firm under monopolistic competition reveals that neither allocative nor productive efficiency is achieved. Price is higher than MC, indicating that there's an under-allocation of resources to the production of the good. Society would like to have more of the units of the good produced, and also price is greater than minimum average total cost, and therefore average cost is higher than what is optimal from society's viewpoint. One of the things that I find interesting about this type of competition is excess capacity. So if you think, have you been to a gas station and seen unused pumps? Have you been to a restaurant with unused tables? Perhaps to a retail establishment where sometimes they have more staff than they have customers. So one of the reasons this happens is that the output that they use is not the output where we have a minimum of average cost. So the profit maximizing rule of MR equals MC means that you're going to produce at a smaller output in order to maximize profit. The difference between capacity output and profit maximizing output is called excess capacity. Excess capacity is the amount of output that is lost when firms underuse their plant and produce at a level of output that does not minimize average total cost. So in other words, we've got unused machines or tables, but we are not fully using all of our factors of production. And product differentiation gives rise to greater product variety for consumers, so this can be a good thing. It's often argued that excess capacity or productive inefficiency is actually the price that consumers must pay for product variety. The greater the product variety, the larger will be the excess capacity, and the greater the productive inefficiency, and the closer the firm will be to a monopoly. By contrast, the less the product variety, the lower the excess capacity, and the greater the productive efficiency, so the closer the firm will be to perfect competition. So we have an assignment here, and also a handout with this was given in class. Thank you.